All right. Welcome to the Week 12 recap edition of the Lewis and Laraib podcast. I'm your host, Lewis, and next to me is my beautiful co-host, Laraib, as we are going through all the Week 12 games, breaking down the big matchups and what you needed to hear from last week's games. All right, Laraib, let's go into these picks, shall we?
Yeah, why don't we pull up the picks once again this week? Oh, baby, 12-9. I mean, it's a great week for both of us, not going to lie. We both hit on our locks and our upsets. But the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys came clutch for me and, secure the dub this week.
I'm very upset. I mean, obviously, we're praying for Joe Burrow here on this podcast. He went down in that Washington game, so after that, it was basically a scratch for me. But not picking New England was one of the most troubling ones. But like you said, we both hit on our locks and upsets. So I'm thankful that we got that out of the way. And we got a bunch to talk about. So, Laraib, let's say we head on to it. But next week, I'm coming back strong. I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we are going to do an edition of This or That, where we give out two topics, and we say, which one are we going to choose, this or that? So, Laraib, let's bring it back to last night's game, Monday Night Football. Was that game more about the Rams' suffocating defense just coming out and playing amazing? Or was it more about Tom Brady not getting it done for another primetime game?
It is going to be, for me at least, the Rams defense. You think about the Rams – you think about the Rams defense, you think about the Rams in general. Oh, you think about Aaron Donald, right? Well, let's talk about some of the other playmakers they have on the defense. Jalen Ramsey, Leonard Floyd, Michael Brockers, Taylor Rapp, Troy Hill, Darius Williams has really come on strong this year. I mean, a bunch of playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. And you know what, Lewis? They're right now the best defense in the league in yards per game. So, I mean, we saw what they did to Tom Brady. We saw what they did to Russell Wilson, a couple weeks earlier. This defense has been playing great all year long. I know all the credit is mostly going to go to Aaron Donald, but I mean, they have playmakers all across the board, and they were giving Tom Brady fits all night. And, one of the most underrated players on the defense, Leonard Floyd, he went crazy, in this game and against the Seahawks. I mean, no one's going to talk about it, but I mean, it all starts with their front seven getting consistent pressure. And then in the back half, you have Jalen Ramsey, but I just said, Taylor Rapp, Tyler Johnson, or John Johnson, a lot of playmakers back in the secondary who have great hands. Darius Williams, like I was saying. So I definitely have to give credit to this Rams defense, and I think they were the ones, who definitely showed out last night.
I'm going to have to disagree with you, Laraib, but I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I agree. The Rams defense has been playing amazing all season, and they deserve a ton of credit. But the thing that lost the Buccaneers the game last night was this Tampa Bay offense led by one Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. And let's just look at the whole Buccaneer season, right? The big win for them is the Packers. They beat the Packers. Good for them. Just absolutely stomped them. But, that game was the Packers were up 10-0, and then Aaron Rodgers throws two basically – one was like returned to the goal line. The other one was a pick six. So that swings the momentum of the entire game. The defense really controlled that game against the Packers and basically let Aaron Rodgers not even come back into the game. But the rest of the wins for this Buccaneers team went over the Panthers twice, went over the Broncos, barely beat the Chargers, had to come back in that game, sneaked past the Giants, and the dominant win was against the Raiders, who the entire offensive line was dealing with coronavirus, and none of them practiced the entire week, which allowed the Buccaneers defensive front really get after them. But the other games of the season, it's like you lose to the Saints twice. You lose to the Bears on Monday night, in which Tom Brady looked awful. He forgot that it was a fourth down on a fourth down play, thought it was third down. And then you lose to the Rams last night in a game that, you had. Jared Goff gave you 2 interceptions, and you were in a situation at the end of a game, it's Tom Brady, down 3, 2 minutes left. When have we not seen him come back in that situation? I feel like it's clockwork. You give Tom Brady a chance to come back in a game, you can almost turn off your TV knowing he's either going to win it or it's going to overtime. And you're just going to have to pray you get the ball first in overtime. because if not, the game's over. So, but this season, here's a stat for you. In the past 6 games, Tom Brady is 1 for 20 on balls that travel 20 plus yards down the field for 18 yards and 4 interceptions, which is not getting it done. And Bruce Arians, that's not Tom Brady. Byron Leftwich, that's not your quarterback. Your quarterback is masterful in the in-between game, moving the chains, utilizing the run game, which has been awful the past few weeks. We saw last week against the Carolina Panthers. Whenever you were able to run the ball, you'd get the defense sucked in, and you were able to hit those deep shots or get playmakers out in space. But this, in games when you're playing against good run defenses, are you just, going to turn over and die or hope that Jared Goff will throw you 2 interceptions, which he did, and you still could not get it done? I want to give credit to the Rams offense. Even though there were those 2 interceptions, Jared Goff played very well. Hit those receivers. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods also had a really good game. But the back end of this Tampa defense has started to show a lot of scars that we didn't see earlier in the season because of the strength of this front seven. But no, the Buccaneers need to get back on track, and we know the ceiling for this team is probably the highest ceiling in all of football. But they just can't get to that ceiling when you have this 43-year-old quarterback holding you down consistently. So I think it's more on Tom Brady for last night's loss.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. They definitely beat up on these lesser teams, but when it comes to showtime, only 1-5 in primetime games this year. So definitely a little uncharacteristic of what we've seen out of Tom Brady. But you got to give the Rams defense their credit. And for Tom Brady, we talk about the whole COVID situation. You don't really get to practice your rapport with the receivers as much as you'd hope, and then you get Antonio Brown halfway through the season, so you have to give him just a little bit of slack. I know he's the GOAT, 6 rings, undisputed greatest football player of all time, but you have to give him a little bit of slack. He had to learn a whole new system after 20 years in New England. I hate Tom Brady, right? I mean, what happened in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks. I absolutely hate this guy, but I mean, you got to give him some slack of what he's had to go through this year. But you're definitely right. And, they kind of remind me another team in the AFC who everyone had high hopes for, kind of like the Baltimore Ravens. Stout defense, and on offense, they really can't get anything going despite all the playmakers they have. I know Baltimore really doesn't have any great wide receivers, but for Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin. So I think it just has to do a lot more with, rapport that he wasn't able to build, like, how he normally would over a normal offseason.
But it's week 11 at this point. And at some point, it's either Byron Leftwich, Bruce Arians, or Tom himself that you're in a situation where now you're 2 games back from the lead of the division, New Orleans Saints, and your offense is what's really holding you back besides some things on the defense that need to get touched up. But in these primetime games, that's the playoffs, Tampa. It's primetime games. And you know what? Even if you get the 5 seed, which right now you're the 6 seed because guess what? You just lost to the Rams. So you'd be going on the road to face Seattle, which that does not seem like a fun game whatsoever to me. And I know some people are like, oh, they're tanking for the 5 seed so they can get to play the NFC East champion. Well, it better not be New York because you should have lost that game at MetLife. So you need to watch yourself in all these games, Tampa, because it's not going to end pretty for you if you want to keep slouching over. So that's my thing with this team. Like I said, I think they have the highest ceiling. That's why we're very critical because we understand where this team can get to with the level of talent they have on both sides of the ball. They just need to piece it together, and we need to see the Tom Brady of old dominate that 2-minute situation against, like you said, a very good Rams defense.
Yeah, and currently, if I'm any of the other teams in the playoffs, I'm not scared to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now because we saw, that defense. Their defense. They can beat up on, Henry Ruggs and Hunter Renfrow. They can beat up on rookie Darryl Mooney and Anthony Miller. But you go against Cooper Kupp, you go against Robert Woods, you get exposed. You go up against Emmanuel Sanders, Michael Thomas, you get exposed. So, if you look at any one of these teams, you have to go up against DeAndre Hopkins. You were just talking about Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, for the Saints, Michael Thomas. So or Devontae Adams. So if I'm any one of the teams in the playoffs right now, the Buccaneers don't scare me, especially with that weak secondary. And they really have to step up in the next couple of weeks. I know they play the Chiefs, but going down the stretch, you have Atlanta twice, Detroit, and the Vikings, who on and off. But their schedule is not too difficult. I can see them finishing the season, maybe 12-5, or
11,
excuse me,
11 and
yeah,
5.
11-5 most likely. But they definitely have to tighten up.
Right, definitely. So now we're going to move on to our next subject of the day, Laura. What do we got for us?
All right, Lewis, this or that, did the Raiders' loss to the Chiefs give you hope, or are you a little bit worried about their situation going forward for making the playoffs?
It gave me hope. It really did. I understand it dropped into their fourth loss, but as we're looking at the AFC right now, maybe it's a little less competitive than we thought coming into this week, because we thought, oh, okay, Baltimore is a shoe-in regardless of how good the Steelers are playing. They're going to get in, right, because of this great team, this great defense. Well, a loss on Sunday to the Titans, and then they're coming off a short week with all this COVID stuff going around their team, and whether or not this game is played on Thanksgiving, we are going to be predicting it like it will be played as of the filming of this podcast, 8 o'clock on a Tuesday. So we were saying that this game will be played, and they're probably going to lose and fall to 6-5 in the AFC in a conference where, 10-6 might get you into the playoffs. And you're looking at these other teams. You have the AFC South, Colts and Titans neck and neck, and they play again this week. So that's going to decide the winner of that division, essentially. So who knows what's going to go on in that game. Plus, you're going to have, Las Vegas, you're right in it. Cleveland just won again, but maybe they're a little fraudulent, more fraudulent than we thought. And then Miami just lost a stinker on the road to Denver, which, I predicted. But even thinking about the game, no one would have thought they would have come out of there with a loss. And Tua, it was just a shaky start for him. He got benched in that game for Fitzpatrick, and he threw an interception to end the game. So the doors are starting to open, despite the loss, for you to make these playoffs. And honestly, out of all those teams I just listed, the team, if I was Kansas City, that I would least like to face would be the Raiders, because they have given me by far the most trouble this entire season. And their offense is just so efficient and how they can score. They're not the flashiest team. They don't really get up and down the field too quickly. But is there a team 3rd and 3 in the entire league, Laraib, that you trust more than the Raiders to convert? Just the amount of weapons and how creative they are. It almost seems like whatever they're doing, 3rd and 3 is almost automatic for them. Darren Waller out route. Bring Henry Ruggs over the middle. Josh Jacobs. As long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot, this offense is one of the most productive units in the entire NFL. I've been very impressed with John Gruden, very impressed by Mike Mayock, and just the stud rookies and second-year players he's drafted for this squad. Max Crosby, defensive end, has been an absolute steal. Jonathan Abrams has been playing out of his mind. And, of course, you have your Josh Jacobs and Henry Ruggs and Darren Waller. But basically, I want to say, if I'm a Raiders fan right now, I have a lot of optimism around my team going into these playoffs.
Yeah, and you heard it on the Sunday night broadcast. It's Derek Carr's body out on the field, but it's John Gruden's mind who's controlling that offense. He and Derek Carr has finally clicked together this season, and that offense has looked great. Josh Jacobs, second-year running back, really has come onto his own. Maybe he doesn't have the most touchdown score or the most, he's actually 4th in the league in rushing yards. So, the offense is clicking together, and their schedule going forward is not too tough. They play the Falcons, the Jets. The Colts might be a little bit difficult, but then you have the Chargers, Dolphins, Broncos. So they most likely have the easiest schedule going forward for one of these AFC teams, that are, at the bottom of the AFC trying to really secure a position. So it definitely gives me hope. And you can keep the Chiefs, to a 4-point game. That's good for you. I know you beat them earlier in the season, and, Patrick Mahomes just has, a magnificent 2-minute, not even 2 minutes, a minute and a half drilled right down the field to beat you. So, what can you do against the reigning MVP or the reigning Super Bowl MVP? But yeah, no, definitely. I know you took a loss, but schedule going forward, how the team has been playing so far, there's definitely a lot of optimism for this season and for the season going forward. I know last year and the years prior, Derek Carr was under a lot of pressure from everyone. You know, you know, he didn't play too well last season. After getting John Gruden, but this year he's finally able to put everything together, and that Raiders team looking like they have a bright future.
No, I've been so optimistic from what I've seen from Mike Mayock and how he's drafted the past few seasons. We saw the first move they had when he came in. They traded Khalil Mack, and we were all saying, "What in the world are you doing, Mike?" And I know their defense is still not a great unit whatsoever. We saw what Patrick Mahomes was able to do to that unit with, I mean, he could have had 30 seconds on the clock and he would have scored a touchdown, it almost seemed like. But you know, his drafting prowess, how he just gets these guys. Cleveland Farrell, probably their best pass rusher, was out for that game. Maybe having him in that situation, it would have put some more pressure in Mahomes' face. And, they need to improve at the linebacker position. I feel like that's probably their biggest need on the defensive side. And maybe just another stud defensive end to complement like a Max Crosby, Arden Key. Just get a good rotation going in there. And they're going to have cap space this offseason to sign. Maybe a Trey Hendrickson comes available on the market, who's leading the league in sacks at the moment, or Jadeveon Clowney, who's going to be available for the open market. There's going to be pass rushers out there for the taking in the NFL. So as a Raiders fan, I'm very encouraged at the moment. However, there's the one thing as a Raiders fan that's always going to be in your way, and that's number 15 over in Kansas City is going to be in your division for the next 10 years. So I don't know what you're going to do about that guy, but besides that, control what's in your destiny and make the most out of it. But that guy up in Kansas City, he's always going to be there waiting at the door for you.
All right, I think that will wrap up the this or that segment. Lewis, you have anything else to add there or no?
No, let's move right on.
All right, so next, let's talk about Super Bowl contenders. Right, we talk about our top 10, top 5 teams in the league, but let's talk about Super Bowl contenders. Who do we think has the best shot to win a Super Bowl? Not who has the best record right now. So I'll start off with my number 5 team. I think the number 5 team who has the best shot to win the Super Bowl is the Seattle Seahawks. Now you have a Super Bowl winning quarterback in Russell Wilson already. Super Bowl winning head coach. You have the championship mentality, and you have some of those key players on both sides of the ball who are able to affect it. And they've Carlos Dunlap, he's been to the playoffs a couple times. The Seattle team, maybe they don't go deep in the playoffs, but they have made it consistently the past couple of years, and that's why I have them as the number 5 spot.
At my number 5 spot, I had the Los Angeles Rams. We just saw what they were capable of on Monday Night Football, how explosive that defense is. And we know the moniker, defense wins championships. And when you have 2 of the best defensive players in all of football, and Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, just always causing havoc, being a part of every single play, and just, doing the most for your defense, you're going to have a shot no matter what. And, like you said, with the Seahawks, you have experience there. Sean McVay and Jared Goff, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but I know they're itching to get back, and that's why they're my number 5 team.
All right, moving on to my number 4 spot. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams. I have them ahead of the Seahawks just because of how great that defense has been playing. And Sean McVay and Jared Goff, like you're saying, they've been to the Super Bowl before, at a, very tight game against the Patriots, which they could have won. But, that year, that Patriots defense was just going crazy. But definitely this year, they've come on. Jared Goff, I know he can be a little bit untrustworthy. But with that defense with Aaron Donald, all the playmakers that we talked about earlier, they're definitely, contending this year.
And at my number 4 spot, I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks, going a little entertaining there.
Okay.
But my thing is, it's about the quarterbacks. I have all the respect and all the trust in Russell Wilson more than I do Jared Goff, and that's the reason why I have them above, even though they've lost to the Rams this season. I think when they play again, I think the Seahawks can definitely win that game. And whenever I think of a Super Bowl trust, who could I think could not only go, but win? We saw Mahomes last year. He was down, he was counted out, and he came back and he won the thing. And that's why I think Russell Wilson's the same type of guy. You can never count him out of any single game he ever plays in. And like you said, the defense is improving. They got some studs coming and really, showing into form like we saw in that Thursday night football game. And this is time for them to really show, flex their muscle towards the end of the season. And they're my number 4 team and my NFC West champion. So that will also help you out when you have that extra home game.
All right, moving on to my number 3 spot, I have the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
Head coach Sean Payton, Drew Brees. Hopefully, we'll see him return before the season ends. But that defense, one of the most underrated in the whole NFL right now. I know we talk about the Buccaneers. You talk about the Steelers, the Ravens, but the Saints, Cam Jordan, Trey Hendrickson. You know who leads the sack? I mean, you definitely know who leads the NFL in sacks right now. Trey Hendrickson. Even in this game, without Marshawn Lattimore, Matt Ryan was held to 5 fantasy points. Tell me. I mean, you don't need to tell me. I know exactly how many fantasy points he had. But, yeah, I mean, that Saints defense with that front 7 and Demario Davis along with Quan Alexander, who they acquired, I mean, underrated. And then on the offense, we saw what Drew Brees did early. He struggled in the season. But now that he has rapport with everyone, even if someone goes down in the playoffs or, injuries to this XYZ player happens, he can count on every single other player. And then Taysom Hill, I know he didn't have any, passing touchdowns, and he struggled early on in the Falcons game, but he really opened it up in the second half, and that's why I have the Saints as my number 3 team.
This might seem a little controversial here, but my number 3 team is the currently undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's why. I think they have the best defense in the NFL. I know we talk about the Rams, but this Steelers unit is an absolute monster at getting to the quarterback, causing pressure, and getting to their face. However, when they play those offensive lines who are not going to give up, not going to budge to the strength of this Pittsburgh defense, that's when their back end can be had. That's my biggest pause with this team, along with the running game is not there with Pittsburgh this season. I'm not sure why that is. James Conner just doesn't seem like he's doing that great. And we know when it's playoff time, the temperature goes down, the stakes go up. The running game is exactly what you need to stand pat in all these situations. So the defense is there. The running game is not. And Ben Roethlisberger has been playing well this season. He's also going to need to show me something a little bit more come playoff time.
Yeah, and at my number 2 spot, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I have them at the 2 spot just because of that defense. The Saints are underrated defense, but we know exactly who the Steelers are. Playmakers all across the board. And the offense, a little bit of worry in the run game, like you were saying. But with the wide receiver core like that and Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, a great second-year player, rookie Chase Claypool, I mean, they've been able to dominate games with those receivers. And despite, how bad the running game is, I mean, if you can throw the ball on every single down and win, I mean, I'm all for it. And Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger do have some previous experience winning a Super Bowl. So, they have the experience to have a great head coach, great coaching staff. That's why I'm at the number 2 spot.
And at my number 2 spot, we're just going to have these interchanged. I have the New Orleans Saints. Sean Payton as the head coach, one of the greatest offensive minds in this league. So that offense is going to be set no matter who. And the running game, Latavius Murray has really come on strong as that second running back workhorse for this team. And we know what you have in Alvin Kamara, constant game changer on the back end. And the strength of this running game is it's going to propel them into the playoffs regardless. And you're still going to have Taysom in that role whenever Drew Brees comes back for this team. So the running game is going to be there. You know that for a fact. And what I've seen from this defense, number 1 in sacks the past 4 weeks in the NFL and at quarterback pressure percentage. I mean, they are getting after the quarterback. And we understood the thing that was plaguing the Saints defense earlier in the season was the strength of their back end. They weren't getting they were giving up big plays in these games, long shots or pass interference that really flipped the field. But since that Chargers game on that Monday night, the Saints are the top 10 secondaries in the NFL. Janoris Jenkins has really come on strong as that second cornerback. And when you get Marshawn Lattimore with a fire lit underneath him, he is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. So the emergence of these two, star cornerbacks, along with a savvy veteran in Malcolm Jenkins and a good starter with a Marcus Williams. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has really come on strong the past few weeks, coming off the edge and causing havoc in the backfield. So the Saints defense has proven to me a lot in the past few weeks, and that's why I give them the slight edge over the currently undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, great points from me there, Lewis. But I think you and I can both agree who is the number one, most likely, Super Bowl contender this year. It has to be the Kansas City
Philadelphia
Chiefs.
Eagles.
Like I was saying, it has to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, I know, if you ask me to list the top 5 teams in the NFL, I'm going with Steelers number one, no matter what you say. But Super Bowl contender, it has to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, you have they just won Super Bowl last year. You have a one loss to the Raiders team, but you come back out on Sunday night and you beat them. So, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he's looking like the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Definitely leading the MVP conversation. Definitely looking like this team. If one mishap from the Steelers and the Chiefs are, right there at the number 1 seed. So give me the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid, offensive guru. And then on the defensive side, Steve Spagnuolo has done a great job with, Tyrann Mathieu. And then, Frank Clark and Chris Jones. I mean, all playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Most complete offense, in the league right now. And that's why I have them as the number 1 seed.
I absolutely agree with you, Laraib. They are my number 1 seed as well. And I just think what you get from Patrick Mahomes in any situation, he will defy the great defenses. He will defy bad running games. He will defy his own bad defenses. And it seems like he will overcome any obstacle. If you're down 20, but you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, you feel like you're still in that game, no matter what. And having him is the ultimate trump card. I mean, there's nothing more to say about it. Clearly the MVP in my case for this season, and having him and Andy Reid just together is just an ultimate combo who will lead this team, in my opinion, to the Super Bowl. But we'll see what happens with the playoffs. So that will conclude our top 5 teams in terms of Super Bowl contention. It might change a bit. We might throw a little love to the Bills, Titans, Colts. Maybe another team gets thrown in there, but that's how it stands at the moment in terms of our trust meter based off all those factors. So now, Laraib, we're going to move on to it's Thanksgiving on Thursday, and you'll be saying this on Wednesday morning. So tomorrow, Thanksgiving, we're going to say what we are thankful for from this football season. Whenever there's football on, we're all thankful. We love the sport, and that's why we talk about it ad nauseum. But, Laraib, both of us are going to list 3 things this season that we personally are thankful for. So I'm going to start. This season, the rookie quarterbacks have been playing fantastic. Now, we're filming this after Joe Burrow's horrific injury, so we are praying that he gets better and it's a speedy recovery. We're all wishing you the best of luck. But besides that, he's been playing amazing this season. And then Justin Herbert's coming on extremely well for the Chargers. And, not even just the rookies this season, but the young quarterbacks, the Kyler Murrays of the world. Daniel Jones starting to come back into form. All these good young quarterbacks. Jake Luton, of course. How could I forget Jake? I just feel like the league is in such good hands following, a lot of the older heads, starting to cycle out, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers. As these guys are starting to go on and retire, the league will be in great hands from the absolute great quarterback play we are witnessing from a lot of these young players. So that's what I am thankful for.
And what I am thankful for is the 2019 NFL wide receiver draft class. I mean, if you look at all the playmakers who came out from last year, the leading ones, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin. But, don't forget about Deebo Samuel, Marquise Brown, Darius Slayton, Mecole Hardman, Deontay Johnson. I mean, Preston Williams, Hunter Renfrow, all these players who have taken their offense up to the next level. And, I might be a little bit biased with DK Metcalf on my favorite team. But, A.J. Brown just had a game-winning or, the OT touchdown, send the Titans to the OT touchdown. He just plowing over dudes. DK Metcalf, a lot of people are putting him in the top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. Deontay Johnson has brought that Steelers, passing game to a whole different level. So that's what I'm really thankful for. in, all these offensive superstars.
When we talk about quarterbacks, we talk about rookies, but I'm thankful for the emergence of the star running back in the NFL. I know I say it's the least valuable position, but there's some players who make you want to throw that horrible take out of the window. This season, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara. You still have Christian McCaffrey, who's amazing, Ezekiel Elliott, and all these other guys who are really starting to make their mark in the NFL. For all these different teams, the running back is what I am thankful for. And my fantasy team is not thankful for this season, but the running back, such a fun position to watch, what they can do for your team. And when it comes playoff times, those running backs, those teams will be very, very thankful for them. I'm looking at you, Tennessee.
Yep, most definitely. But what I am thankful for is anything surrounding the Dallas Cowboys this season. I mean, let me just talk about this week. They won me the pick'ems that we had. If they didn't win, then it would have been a tie. But think about all the great memes that we get from the Cowboys every week. I'm thinking about Ezekiel Elliott on my fantasy team. Sometimes he's bad, sometimes he's good, but he's out there doing good. But yeah, I know. I mean, everyone loves to hate on the Cowboys, and that just makes great memes for everybody to look at on NFL memes, on Ghetto Gronk, and then I'm telling you that defense has been playing good the past couple of weeks, and that's the bright spot of the team for this season so far.
And my final thing I'm thankful for this NFL season is just we've made it through 11 weeks of the season, and no game, knock on wood, has been canceled yet due to the coronavirus, or every game that has been scheduled has been played. So we are very thankful. We have football this football season, and it is great football every single Sunday we were able to watch. So thankful for the sport, thankful for everything we were watching. So thank you, NFL, for keeping it this way. Now, hopefully we can move on and finish the season with no more interruptions.
And what I am thankful for finally for this season is you guys, the people watching this podcast. I mean, thank y'all so much. I mean, most of y'all won't make it this far into the video, but just clicking on the video, watching it. I know we're just two college students just making a podcast at our homes, just spewing off random crap about this team or that team. But no, thank y'all so much for just investing in part of our hobby.
We appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the love. And we want to do anything we can to improve the football experience for all the football fans out there, because this is the sport that unites us. Through anything, we can get through it, especially when we have football on our side. So like he said, I want to echo that completely. Thank y'all so much. But now, one more thing for you. We got football on Thanksgiving, Laraib.
Oh, yeah.
3 games that have to be played. So let's go ahead and let's get to those games. Laraib, you want to start us off?
Yep. So the Houston Texans at 3-7 will go to Ford Field to play the 4-6 Detroit Lions. Houston in this game -3. But let's start off with the Texans. I mean, offensive explosion last week from Deshaun Watson. I mean, you thought that the Patriots defense was be able to stifle that Texans offense, but Deshaun Watson, he was able to hit those playmakers all day long. I know on the defensive side of the ball, they were able to give up, a lot of rush yards to Damien Harris. But this week, they're going against the Detroit Lions, who scored a big fat 0 last week against the Carolina Panthers. And, give me the Texans this one pretty easily. Matt Stafford has been off all season long. I know he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league this year. But, that team has not been able to get anything going. I know DeAndre Swift was out last week, but I think he's questionable for this game. But for the Texans side of the ball, I just like the offense a lot more. And then on the defensive side, with J.J. Watt, anything can happen in that backfield for the Lions. So give me the Texans in this one. Well, let me hear you take on it first.
You want to talk about offensive explosion. That is the absolute opposite. It was an offensive implosion for the Detroit Lions last Sunday against a not that great Carolina defense. So in this game against the Texans, we saw them give some trouble to the New England Patriots, although that offense has been inept all year. I expect this game to be a lot closer than the game was between the Lions and the Panthers, but I agree with you. I'm going with the Texans. I trust Deshaun Watson. He's really starting to find a rhythm with these receivers that it seemed kind of off the first few weeks, but now he's realizing what he needs to do to win, and it's a lot. It's a lot of let Deshaun cook. Get all the running backs out of the offense. Don't run. Just let Deshaun do his thing, and that will win you games in the NFL. So, yeah, I have the Texans winning this game 34-26. I think, it's going to be a nice, fun game to start off the week with, and Deshaun Watson gets his first Thanksgiving dub.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. This is going to be, at least the Texans, I know for sure, are going to score a lot of points. It's going to depend on, what type of Lions team are we going to see? Is Matt Stafford, he looked off against the Carolina Panthers. So it depends on what he's going to go up against, or how he's going to do this week. But against the Texans team that ranks, almost last in every statistical category, I think this is going to be a nice, fun game, like you're saying, to start off the morning. A lot of points in this one, a lot of touchdowns. So give me the Texans in this one. 31-27 Texans.
All right, now we're going to move on to our second game of the afternoon, or of the Thanksgiving slate. We have the football team traveling to Dallas. Dallas is favored by 3 in this game. I'll start off with this one. We saw both these teams come off pretty impressive wins against not so great teams, but I would say the more impressive win fell into the hands of the Dallas Cowboys as they knocked off a very hot Vikings team who were coming off an offensive explosion against the Chicago Bears on a Monday night, and they held it in. Their defense didn't play that great. Kirk Cousins had a very good game for his sake, but they did what they needed to do to get the game in hands. And that offense with Andy Dalton back there, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. CeeDee Lamb really coming on as a prominent receiver with this offense, and getting that prominent quarterback under center, a guy who this offense can trust, is so huge for this offense. But in this matchup, going up against a ferocious football team defense, who we saw what they did to Andy Dalton the last time they played, granted that was in the House of Horrors for every quarterback this year, aka FedEx Field. Now we're going back to Jerry World. This game will be played. It's not going to be fair in Jerry World because he's going to rig up something on Thanksgiving. But I say this football team defense is not going to be as great, and I'm going to give the Cowboys the slight edge.
Yeah, and then on the Washington side of the ball, they clearly looked incompetent against a game, the Bengals last week until a Joe Burrow injury, and that's when they were finally able to get something going on the other side of the ball. But against this week, against a much-improved Dallas Cowboys defense, I expect them to struggle pretty heavily. And the Cowboys, I know last time I played, Ezekiel Elliott had a terrible game, but if he can recreate just a little bit of the same success he had against the Vikings, I think the Cowboys can win this game. It's going to be a tight one, not as much scoring as the last game, but I think the Cowboys can win this game and go to first place in the NFC East. So give me the Cowboys 21, Washington 17.
Now, yes, like you just said, this game will determine the winner of this conference, at least for the meantime, before the Eagles play again and ruin it with that stupid tie that they have. But yes, this will determine the current winner at 4 wins for this division. And I got to agree with you, Laraib. I like the Cowboys in this matchup. Andy Dalton really comes on for his second week and proves that, this offense is legit. The defense is what I'm worried about, which makes me hesitant to secure this pick. But give me the Cowboys, masters of the Thanksgiving games. They're going to win this game. I'm going to go 24-17. Dallas Cowboys. How about them boys on Thanksgiving?
All right, and let's move on to the Thursday night showdown. The Baltimore Ravens at 6-4 playing the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. The line in this game is minus 5.5 towards the Steelers. And a quick thing to note, this game, everyone hold your horses. I'm praying, but it might be canceled. I know a couple of Ravens players have tested positive for COVID-19, and per Adam Schefter, even if a few more players for either team get more positive tests, then I believe this game will be postponed for a later date. But, looking at it right now, for sure we know that Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins, neither of them will be playing in this game for the Ravens. So if you want to go and pick up Gus Edwards for your fantasy team, might want to go do that, even though they're going against
I'll be
even though
right
they're
back.
going against the Steelers. The Baltimore Ravens one of the most run-heavy offenses in the league. So hopefully he can get you a couple of fantasy points. But I mean, this is going to be a tough game for the Ravens. They've been struggling the past couple weeks on offense, and playing against one of the best defenses in the NFL is not going to do them any good this week. I know Mark Andrews really showed out last week, but Hollywood Brown, another donut for him on the stat sheet. And yeah, no, this Ravens team is going to struggle. I really want to see Lamar Jackson hit the deep ball in this game if he's going to have any chance to beat the Steelers, at Heinz Field.
Right. And I'm liking the Ravens in this particular matchup. This game is huge for them. If they lose, they fall to 5 losses on the season, and they're already pretty much out of the AFC North title. This game 2 weeks ago looked a lot juicier than it did following 2 back-to-back Ravens losses. But, John Harbaugh is a really good coach. He saw that the Ravens, frankly, they outplayed the Steelers in the first matchup. They outgained them by almost 100 yards. And if it wasn't for 4 Lamar Jackson turnovers, that game is over. And I just think the Ravens are a more talented team. I understand the running game will not be the same without J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram, who, according to an ESPN story, they're phasing Mark Ingram out of the offense due to a lack of production from him this season, which is interesting to me because there's a lack of production from a lot of the offensive players this season in Baltimore. But I feel like they get it done in this game. They understand what's at stake. They know the Steelers already beat them. And this is a prove-it game for Lamar Jackson in this offense. So I'm saying Lamar gets it done in this game, shuts the doubters up, gets his bag, and wins this game 34-31.
Wow, that's a really high-scoring game for
Upset
two of
of
the
the week.
for two. That's just your upset of the week. This is your upset
Absolutely.
for the week. Oh man, no,
Absolutely.
this is a high-scoring game that you predicted for 2 of the best defenses in the NFL. And after a complete opposite of you, I can't trust Lamar Jackson. The Ravens are going to foil you once again. You've been picking them almost every single game all season long, and they're going to mess it up for you once again. Going with them as your upset is too crazy for you right now. But I mean, you have the 1 game lead, so I mean you can get away with it. But definitely I'm picking the Steelers in this one. I know you said if Lamar Jackson doesn't have those 4 turnovers in that game, but that's exactly what the Steelers defense does. Gets pressure on the quarterback, makes them forces them to make any mistakes that they can at all, fumbles, interceptions. That's what pressure does to a quarterback. That's what they're going to do. That's what they've been doing all season long, and that's what we're going to do in this game. Give me the Steelers in this one. It's going to be a tight game on Thursday night on Thanksgiving, but Steelers can pull away, especially at home. Give me Steelers in this one. 24. Ravens 17.
Okay. All right. That will wrap it up for the Week 11 recap edition of the Lewis and Laraib podcast. We always drop the socials down below. And if you can send me a picture of an NFL player eating a turkey leg following a Thanksgiving game, you will get a Venmo of $5. So let me see that in my Venmo, and you'll get a nice Thanksgiving treat.
Yep. And if you send me a picture of Russell Wilson eating the turkey leg after winning on Thanksgiving a couple years ago, I will also send you $5 on Venmo.
All right. So that'll wrap it up for this week's podcast. We will see you post-Thanksgiving and give you all of our predictions for the rest of this NFL week. So have a great holidays.
All right. See you all and have a great Thanksgiving.